okay? It can only work on one sense, okay? Whereas if you're conscious, you can access all kinds of processing. If you're unconscious, you can only get it in through the eyes or the ears or something. It's limited to sensory processing. It enables novel info comprehension. I won't go into all this, it takes too long. In order to working memory, when you're trying to work out a problem and remember something, okay, you need conscious elements, okay? You have to be awake, you have to focus your attention on the problem to solve it. If you daydream, you won't do very well on the GRE or the ACT. You got to focus on it. That takes consciousness, that takes selective attention that you drive on. And you can do all kinds of learning because of it. You can actually do biofeedback and learn to control your own heart rate and things like that. You can't do that if you're unconscious, okay? It takes consciousness for all these things. The executive functions. Your working memory and your consciousness is basically limited to maybe one, maybe two functions at a time, but not much more than that, okay? And I do this in my class, but if you try and memorize, let's say, the last word in each one of these sentences, okay? The best way you're going to do it is rehearse it, right? But if I say to you at the same time, count backwards out loud by 100 by threes, okay? Go ahead and do that. 100, 97. Okay, now while you're doing that, try and memorize that word list. You can't rehearse it, you can't do both. That's your executive control. Can only focus on one thing. It takes consciousness for that, okay? I don't think dogs can do that either. Okay. Let me jump to Antonio Damasio. He's going to talk a little bit about some more current neuroscience and consciousness. I hope I didn't screw something else. Did I do that? I don't think I did. He has a great book called The Self Comes to Mind. I'll let him talk a little bit about a few of his ideas and then we'll go from there. Would this one die? Yeah, but it did. How's about time? Well, I'll tell you what. Damasio we can skip. See if I can just come back up. There we go. Okay. Here's Harris, and this is drawn from Damasio so I can do it without it. Harris says, when we think of vision, we think of the conscious experience of seeing. Now, Harris would say, and you can't reduce that consciousness to, operation of neurons in your brain. Antonio Damasio talks about a patient of his called Mrs. T. I'm going to have to read this because I'm not a neuroscientist and I'll blow it up. She had dorsal, which is up above, and medial, down in between, frontal lobe damage. She was fully awake, but she displayed minimal response. Flat expression and affect means she showed no emotion and no expression. Responsive only to the most minimal degree. She later described her condition in terms of, I truly had nothing to say. Her temporary condition was conscious, but devoid of all normal human content of human consciousness. She exhibited for that time the sort of minimal consciousness, if it may be called that higher primates, your dog, dolphins, and elephants may possess. When did that volition to respond to external stimuli, the drive to represent and replay them, when did that evolve in us? She had no stream of consciousness, barely conscious at all, and there was no constant and automatic succession of thoughts, feelings, or images, with oneself as the actor agent in the continuing narrative. Mrs. T was left with virtual suspension of animation or action or thought processes, okay? This, I believe, is similar to whatever animal consciousness may be, even if we could call it that, okay? What's important about that, I think, what mediates that, we know we're seeing with our eyes, and we feel it as well. So if I ask you, not only can you see, if you say, what are you seeing with? Are you seeing with your thumb or your ear? Okay? What are you going to say? No, I'm seeing with these things. My eyes. Well, how do you know that? Well, I feel I'm seeing with eyes. Well, some of it is the fact that you're moving your eye muscles back and forth, and if you start to pay attention to it, you'll notice your eyes moving around. And this is interesting. Here's an example of conceptual poverty we can fix right now. You move your eyes as often as your heart beats. Not in synchrony with your heartbeat, but you move your eyes as much during the day while you're awake as your heart beats. And your heart beats, for us athletes, 60 times a second. If you're a little hyper, 70, 80. If you're running 100, 120 beats a minute, you move your eyes 50 to 100 times a minute. You don't think about it, but now pay attention to when you're even reading that slide. Your eyes are going all over the place. You're reading this, then you're going here, then you're looking at me, then you're looking at there. Once you're aware of it, you realize, yeah, I do move my eyes as often as my heart beats. It's pretty often. My eyes are rarely stationary, okay? So, you know you're seeing with your eyes, and you can feel it, okay? And if I say to you, where are you seeing from? Where are you? Where's your conscious, subjective experience? Is it in your big toe? Is it in your thumb? Where do you feel you are? Like here, right behind your eyes, right? But that's not what you see with. You see with your visual cortex in the back of your head. But nobody ever says, well, yeah, I'm seeing right now, I can feel it right back here. Because this is where all the primary visual processing is going on. But nobody ever says that. Nobody feels like they're seeing with their actual visual cortex. Okay? You see with your eyes, because your eyes move and this and that. And the thing that you have is, okay, you see with your own eyes because you have the concept, you know what seeing is. A chimp doesn't know what seeing is. A chimp or a monkey can look at somebody, and if their eyes are facing forward, okay, a monkey will back off. If you turn around, and the monkey can't see your eyes, he'll sneak up behind you and steal something out of your pocket or steal something. But if you're facing forward, he won't go by you. So then you're like, well, does the monkey understand seeing? Well, we can test that. So we'll have two people stand facing the monkey or the chimp. Chimps will beg for food. So if you have two people standing there, a chimp will come up and beg for food randomly from either one. Well, then you have one of them put a bucket over their head, but they're both facing forward. Now, if the chimp knew what seeing was, he'd know this person can't see him, okay? And this one, with its eyes uncovered, can't. The chimp will still go to either one randomly and beg for food. The chimp doesn't have a concept of seeing. He can see, but he doesn't know what seeing is. Also, he doesn't have a concept of chimp. In order for you to say, I am seeing with my eyes and have that conscious experience, you must have all three concepts. You've got to have a self-concept, me separate from something else. You got to know what the hell seeing is. You got to know what eyes are. Chimps have eyes, but do chimps have any kind of conceptual idea that an eye is a thing with a retina on the back and it has photoreceptors and a lens, right? You guys, even without a big perception class, can go on for a half an hour about all the attributes of eyes. You have a huge concept of what an eye is, okay? Chimps have none of that, I don't think. Okay, integrated consciousness. I'll do this real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. If Landon was here, this slide was actually for Landon. One of the theories of consciousness right now is this guy, Giulio Tononi, who has a book called Phi, and it's Integrated Information Theory. And what he says is consciousness is just more information access than non-conscious things. So the reason we're conscious is we have all these possible opportunities to respond, whereas something that isn't conscious has minimal ones. So it's just, you get enough information transfer and bingo, you get consciousness. So I think he's kind of missing the boat, but elegant theory, I won't go into it. Here's his thought experiment. A diode, right, just an on-off little electrical thing, is detecting the presence of illumination. You shine light on it, it responds by kicking out a small electric current. It doesn't know light, it doesn't know on-off, but it responds physically to light hitting it. Enough photons of the right wavelength hit it, and it kicks in, okay? The human has nearly infinite possible integrations. If we see the light go on and off, we could talk for hours about light and wavelengths, and it means that it's a warning light, that the door's going to close any minute, you know, on and on and on and on, right? The diode only has two responses. So he says it's just, we've got more responses. And I think he's really missing the boat. Real consciousness, okay? The diode doesn't see the light, doesn't know what light is, nor feel itself seeing the light like you do. You see with your eyes and you can feel it. But also, okay, most importantly, the diode doesn't know it's seeing or sensing anything. All it does is respond to light hitting it. It doesn't have any of this conceptual stuff to know what it's doing, that it's seeing the light like you are. Okay? So only the human animal senses the light, experiences seeing, knows it's doing so. Okay? This is the fun one. Fee, fi, fo, fum. The diode doesn't know it's seeing, it responds to wavelengths, okay? All those concepts in a process is what human consciousness is about. We'd be meat puppets or zombies without it. Maybe we are meat puppets for free will, I know, okay? So, the diode doesn't know it's seeing from within here, situated in its body, that this dumb experimental task is trivial, that the repetition of it is boring, that it's hungry as hell, it hasn't eaten since lunch, the little lab assistant is hot, and the experiment is making me do the shit because he's an asshole. Okay? The diode doesn't have any of that. Now that's consciousness. Okay? That's what we experience all the time. Okay? I don't think any animal, starfish on up, experiences anything like that. Starfish, I don't think, are even sentient. But even the sentient beings have nothing like this. Okay? So, a chimp seeing light doesn't know a heck of a lot more than the diode. I'm watching my time here. Here's Harris again. The distance between unconsciousness and consciousness must be traversed in a single stride. Cue Descartes on that one. My goodness. So I want to show you a quick, we've got another 15 minutes or so.
Why would he make such an idiot? Well, I won't say idiot.
He's got to push.
He knows how evolution works. It works in small changes.
This is like Ken Miller talking about the Pope. I swear.
And modifying what you have and adding things.
Oh,
That's just not how evolution works.
This is V.S. Ramakandon. He's going to talk about it. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes of this. He's excellent, better speaker than I am. I get to take a break. He's going to talk about a specific syndrome called Capgras syndrome. It's really interesting. If you get a chance to watch any of his videos, he's fantastic. And I got to reboot all the tips. Where is it? Right here? Yeah.
Hit play.